Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 92 of a year of change. We are starting our 14th week already, so we're going to have a little bit of a change, sort of an unscheduled one. I know I sort of talked about this before a couple of weeks ago. I said I wasn't going to do it, but I think probably best if we do this now, but we'll get to that in a bit. I do want to say that I made a slight miscalculation yesterday when I was doing my food diary. I had said yesterday that it's just because of lack of energy and just not wanting to actually prepare anything, I pretty much just sort of ate junk food throughout the day. But I was watching everything. I was like, this is good. I'm still under my calories and everything is fine. And late last night, I went to go look at it and add everything up. And I realized I was just looking at it and thinking, that doesn't seem right. So I went back and looked at my numbers and I was way off. I was so far off. So... in short, I went way over what my calorie goal was supposed to be. I just wasn't paying attention, didn't carry my one or whatever it was, and ended up pretty much just wrecking the day. But it was unintentional, and I've done my weigh-in today, as should you. Again, weigh yourself 3 times, take the highest number. I know I keep saying that, but it's just to sort of keep things going. And I'm back to where I was 2 weeks ago, so we're good. So last week, when I had actually gained because of the schedule change or my eating habits or whatever it was, probably my eating habits, because of the schedule change sort of thing, I've gained that back, or I've lost that back. I've gained ground. You know what I mean? Anyway, I'm back to where I was 2 weeks ago, so it's like exactly. So I'm like, great, okay. So at least I know it's not just the hours. I just need to adjust myself and make sure that I'm eating properly. And, eating at work at a proper time instead of coming home and binging on stuff for the last hour, because obviously that didn't fucking work. So, back on track. Things are going to be good. I'm probably going to try to keep the schedule if I can. Just now that I'm set in it and I know what to do with it, then I'll start making progress and I'll start losing again. So it should be okay. And that's even actually with yesterday, which was way off. So... technically, had I followed everything properly during the week, I probably would have actually made some progress. But I've just I gained those 2 pounds, and then I lost exactly 2 pounds again, so I'm right back. So I'm happy again. Anyway, the change that we're going to do today, over the past couple of weeks, it started out by doing just, moving while you're watching the videos, and then we shut that down and just went, okay, you're going to have one day, or actually no, one day during that time when you were going to do half an hour, and then we got rid of all the extra stuff, and you just had 2 days where you need to do stuff. And we've been doing that for a couple of weeks. So originally today I was going to sort of increase the intensity, I guess is what you would call it. But I don't want to do that just yet, because we're still working on our pattern and trying to get into that schedule. So what we're going to do today instead is basically the same thing that we did 2 weeks ago. We're just adding a 3rd day. Now, this isn't going to continue on. This is our stopping point. We aren't going to ever do any more than 3 days a week. So for me, it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I find that's the easiest for me. I do everything in the morning. When I first get up, that's when I do my treadmill. And then I have the entire weekend off, which I tend to end up doing my treadmill because I do tend to start to go over. But as long as I do my treadmill and cancel it out, we're okay. But we aren't going to ever do any more. We aren't going to do okay, you're going to exercise 4 days a week or 5 or 6 or 7. Unless you're training for a marathon, you don't need to. So... it's going to be the same sort of thing, just whatever days that you pick, watch the video, and then whatever time is left, just make it equal out to half an hour. You don't need to change the type of exercise that you're doing. Probably by now you've found which one that you enjoy. I think I just spit all over myself. So, for me, it's walking. I'm going to start to sort of increase more stuff as we go along. I started late last week. I didn't actually count it as calories burned, just to see if I could do it, because I'm to a stage now where I don't feel like it's actually doing anything. So I'm going to sort of up that again. You don't need to, don't worry. We're going to deal with that in probably 2 weeks' time. Then that's when I'm going to sort of delve into a little bit more of, the type of exercise that we're going to be doing. Right now, it's basically just some motion that you normally wouldn't be doing. to give you an idea as to what sort of thing that you're looking at. And it's going to be different for everybody. And this is something that I'm going to go into really in depth in a couple of weeks' time, just to sort of differentiate between what is considered strenuous exercise and moderate exercise, because it's different for everybody. There are some people that think, like for me right now, walking 4 kilometers is moderate exercise. That's how it's classified. If I was a 92-year-old man, then it probably would be strenuous. So, it's very difficult just to say, oh, we'll do this. That's your exercise. But I can give you some rough ideas as to what we'll be talking about. For instance, in my head anyway, here's what I'm thinking for the sort of movement that you should be doing during these 3 days a week. When you're watching the video, if you think about how fast you would normally walk from your living room to the kitchen to get a drink, or from, just as you're walking around your house, going from room to room, not cleaning or anything like that, just the speed that you would walk. That's the sort of motion that we're talking about, because I still want to stay at a pace where you're very comfortable doing it. It's just that you're doing it in a situation where you normally wouldn't. Normally you'd be sitting and watching this, either at your computer desk or on your mobile device, whatever it is. But for that, just have a little stroll, not even a vigorous walk or anything like that. If you want, you certainly can. But for starting out, that's probably a good baseline for everything that we're doing. If you can't walk, if you're bedridden, or if you're in a chair, or whatever the situation may be, move your arm. Something that you would normally, something that you would leisurely do. Like if you're moving stuff from one side of your chair to the other, or just sort of back and forth, or I'm not sure what exercise you would do. I'm not talking about people that are in wheelchairs that are zipping around doing basketball stuff, because I couldn't even do that. So no, you don't have to do that. But just something that you would normally not be doing. But doing it at a pace that you're comfortable with. Like for me, when I first started walking, I walk very slowly in general. With just if I'm walking like down the hill or up the hill or wherever I'm going, I'm a very slow walker. I like to take my time. I like to take in everything around me and stuff like that. So I tend to mosey more than anything. If that's your speed, then mosey for half an hour, because it's all that we really need to do. You don't need to break a sweat. You don't need to be out of breath. You don't need to do any of that stuff yet. Because the main reason why I want to do this and add this 3rd day now is because, and we talked about this before, for the same reason why we gradually started, adding more vegetables and drinking more water and things like that, which I will be tracking this week, by the way. Every single day I'm going to be tracking it, and I'm going to try to make sure that I get all 2 liters that I'm trying to do, because I can't really preach to you if I'm not doing the same thing. So I will be tracking it. Anyway, the reason why we started doing that was to get into a flow, into a pattern, into something that just becomes part of our daily routine. And putting something in saying you need to set aside 1 hour every single day is not realistic at this point. Later on, when you have more energy and you're sort of used to it, you'll be able to say, you know what, I can probably squeeze in another half hour somewhere. That's way down the line, though, so don't worry about that. Right now, what I want us to do is to get used to the fact that for 3 days a week, and like I said, for me, it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because that just works for me. If you have those days off, like if you have a Tuesday, Wednesday off, or if you have a Tuesday, Thursday off, or split shifts, or whatever you're doing, pick the days that are going to work for you. It doesn't matter if there are 3 in a row, or if they're 1 day on, 1 day off, 1 day on, 1 day off. I find that's easier because then I can get a day in between. But whatever you decide to do for your 3rd day, have it spaced out so that it's convenient for you and something that you're going to be able to keep. And if you're watching these, then chances are you've got a certain time of day that you probably go up and you watch these, unless, like yesterday, or today even, they go up really fucking late, and I do apologize for that. Just laziness. I like to say, no, I had this to do, and that, and this, and that, and there were things falling out of the sky and everything else. No, just didn't get around to doing it on time. So, and today was just late. Anyway, but I wanted to get to a point where you can say, okay, I can pick, for example, Saturday, Sunday, and Thursday. They don't have to be together. They don't have to be evenly spaced. They do it for me just because I find it easier to keep that and easier to remember. So take that time and say, okay, that's a half hour, and whatever you're doing, whether it's watching these or watching something else, or whatever you decide to do, that's when you're doing something that normally you'd just be sitting watching TV or sleeping or something. And the reason why I wanted to keep it so really like low intensity is so that we can just get used to the pattern. So that that this is a half hour a day that you have set aside, or half hour once every 2 days or whatever it is, 3 times a week, there we go, that you've set aside that you know you're going to be able to keep. That if you don't do it, it's not going to be, I mean, obviously real life is going to jump in there every now and then, but in general, the same thing that we were doing with the 2 days a week, it's going to be a day that you know you're going to be able to, at some point during the day, take half an hour and do this. But I don't want it to be something where you think, I'm going to be tired. I don't care if it's part of your, say, good enough. This is half hour a day where I'm going to do housework. That's when I'm going to be cleaning. So you take that half hour and that's when you do your cleaning. Which is probably going to be more strenuous than what I'm originally planning, which is just getting moving, doing something. So whatever that time frame is, set that aside. So at this stage, we should have 3 days a week, doesn't matter when they are, where you've got half an hour where you're doing something, you're moving, where you normally wouldn't be. I could say, you could set aside, I'm going to stick with that. If you want to say, good enough, I'm going to start at 6 o'clock at night. And that's when I start cleaning the house every single day. And just do half an hour of housework or whatever it is that you decide to do. I don't care if it's something that you need to have done. Like if you have a specific time where you do laundry, make that your half hour so that you know that, okay, I'm setting that aside. It doesn't matter what it is. The main reason why I want to get this going is so that we have a set time. We have that pattern so that when we finally do in a couple of weeks, start saying, okay, now we need to do something that is going to increase the amount of effort that we're putting into it. Then you're not going to say, well, I don't have time anymore. You're going to have time because you've already set that up and you've been doing it for 2 weeks. And just like adding the food and the vegetables and, shuffling stuff around that way, we're in a pattern now. You have a regular schedule that we follow. And so that, I think, is really important for us just to start out because, again, if you're setting yourself up and saying, okay, I need to set aside an hour, 1 day a week where I need to do something, like I need to work out, you're going to find a reason to not do it. We're excellent at finding excuses for not doing stuff. And, just saying, oh, well, today I'm sort of sick or it's raining, so I can't go out and do my walk and all that stuff. Whatever it is that you've decided to do, and again, you don't have to break a sweat, you don't have to be out of breath, you don't have to do any of that stuff. Just have it set aside so that you're not sitting and doing nothing. Or if you have to sit, then, if you're wheelchair bound or if you're bedridden, that you're doing something, some physical activity that you normally wouldn't be doing during that half hour. So I repeated myself like 10 times already. And we're probably like 5 minutes in. What are we? 13 minutes in. Sort of ish. Anyway, that's really the only change I want to do this week. Like I say, I was going to touch more on sort of the difference between moderate and strenuous exercise and all the other different things. That's enough. That's far enough down the road that I think we can leave that for a couple of weeks. And then, we'll have a little bit better understanding as to how we're going to start increasing these things. And probably what we'll end up doing at that point is when we'll increase the exercise. Then after we're used to that for a little bit, that's when we're going to start doing the food changes. For this, once we're in that pattern, say that we did this for 2 weeks and then we upped it a little bit. That exercise is probably going to stay for at least another 2 weeks. And during that time, we won't make very many changes there, but that's when we'll start looking at, unfortunately, salt and sugar and fat and carbs and all the other stuff. I sound all fancy now because I said carbs instead of carbohydrates. I don't know what they are. Bread, I think, and pasta, and rice, and mousse. There we go. It's good enough. I have no idea. I think it's just, for some reason, I want to say white stuff. Is that racist? I don't think it is. But I think if it's something that's white, I might be making that up. So don't pay attention. We'll figure that out later on. But when we start changing things up that way, as I said before, I'm going to do the salt first because that is my toughest one. So I don't want to just say, okay, we're going to cut out sugar because for me, that's nothing. I could cut out sugar entirely and it would be a rough adjustment, but in the end, I probably wouldn't care too much. But taking away my salt, that's like telling prisoners you're taking away their cigarettes, which we talked about earlier. It's going to be really, really tough for me to cut way back. So we'll figure out something that way. That's going to be a few weeks down the road, though. Not looking forward to it, but I figure if we're going to be doing this, I've got to start out with the hard stuff for you guys first. So that, because again, if I can't just say, oh, well, it's really easy to cut out sugar. Maybe sugar is your thing. Maybe fat is your thing. Maybe What's the other bad one? Sugar, fat, salt, and heroin. Maybe heroin's your bad thing. I don't know. But we'll figure something out. But I'm going to start with something that's going to be roughest for me, just because that's going to give me a much better perspective when we start cutting out sugar, and carbohydrates, and then tweaking, what's the other stuff? Proteins, carbs. Sodium is sort of the salt thing. I know I'm missing one. Different fats. And I don't know what it is. Protein, sugar, salt, fat, carbs. I know I'm missing one. That's going to drive me nuts. Anyway, and the other thing, which is, of course, it's that. Like what everyone knows. So that's going to be a few weeks down the road, but for right now, I just want to get us into that pattern. We're coming up to, in a week's time anyway, 100 days of doing this. So we're used to this pattern that we're in now. So again, time to make that another little change. And this will sort of be the final change, really, for what we're doing. Aside from tweaking little things here and there, we've got our food roughly where we need it to be. And now we have our schedule where we really need it to be. At that point, it's just a matter of increasing the exercise and then decreasing the bad things in our food. And really, that's what we're going to be doing for the next year. Well, 9 months. Sorry. But I think this is nice. I mean, we're sort of coming up on another milestone, and we're at the 90-day, 100-day mark. So I think it's a good time to say, yeah, it took us really, when you think about it, it took us 3 full months to get to a point where we're like, all right, now we have our schedule. That's a lot of prep work, but we've done a lot in that time frame. I mean, we've done a lot of positive stuff in the time, and for a lot of you out there, you are going to see progress, and that's just getting the setup to where it needs to be. We haven't even really delved into a lot of the hardcore changes that we have, but so you are going to see more and more progress as we go along. If there are some of you out there that are still with us and you haven't seen as much progress as you like, or you're still sort of plateauing, it may be because you're already eating properly, you're already doing this activity. At this stage, once we start making the little changes and tweaking things, the little nitty-gritty things, that's when you're probably going to see a lot more progress than you have up till now. The fact that you're still with us, though, is great. That you're still sticking with it after 3 months and you're just starting to see things change now. But it should tell you, at least at this stage, that we've been doing things right. Not every day, not every week. So myself included, we've gained, we've lost, we've plateaued. Well, we've stayed the same. I haven't really hit a plateau yet. So we've gained, we've lost, we stayed the same. There's been, but overall, over the 90 days, we've made great improvements over what we've eaten, how we're reacting to stuff, whether it's overeating or the type of foods and things like that. You've made some changes. And if you think back, and I keep doing this every single week, but I think it's important. If you look back, you're going to see a difference. So we'll start this week with day 3 of exercise. Day 3 in day 92 in week 14. Lots of numbers everywhere for everybody. But this way, we're now at where we need to be. So you've got 3 days a week, which is what I'm doing with the treadmill as well. So 3 days a week where you can pick out whatever you decide to do, whether it's just going for a stroll, playing with a dog, or lifting weights, or whatever it is that you decide to do, whatever your exercise of choice has been for those, as we've been doing for the past couple of weeks. For those 2 days, you're just adding a third day. We aren't increasing intensity or duration or any of that stuff. And chances are, maybe down the road, you can add more time, but I think it's probably wise to stick to just the half hour right now. Because again, a half hour, that's 90 minutes a week that you're doing. That's an hour and a half that we haven't done before. So it is going to start making a significant difference. And especially once we start sort of picking up the pace, and it will be small, just like every other change that we've done. It's going to be very, very tiny. First change is probably going to be just need to do something so that you break a sweat. You don't need to be out of breath. Which for some of us is like brushing your teeth. So that's where I want to get to, where I don't sweat when I brush my teeth. But once we have that set, then we'll start making the little increases. And I think that at that stage, that's when we're going to really start seeing things pick up for us. Because we're just going to alternate between the exercise and the food and make the changes that we've been not necessarily dying to make, but ones that we know we need to get us to where we want to be. But that's it for this video. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.